Welcome to Tomorrow Beyond 311, where we follow well-known overseas personalities as they experience Japan's disaster recovery firsthand. The world-renowned pianist Dang Tai Son was born in Vietnam. Son was the first Asian to win the International Frédéric Chopin Piano Competition. More than 3 decades have passed since that landmark event, and Son has won fans around the world with his mesmerising performances. He has a close relationship with Japan and plays concerts in nearly every year. Son heads to Fukushima. 2 years after the disaster, many people are still in temporary accommodation. The scars left by the disaster remain deep. The damaged landscape takes Son back to the difficulties he endured as a child during the Vietnam War.
War in Vietnam is a long period, and it's not tragedy, not come right away. It's day by day and slowly. But Japan, it suddenly once in 1 minute, and suddenly everything is changing. So created it a big shock.
During his visit to Fukushima, Son meets with young people using music to overcome the trauma of the disaster.
I had been playing piano every day, but suddenly I couldn't play anymore, and I always used to feel restless at the time I usually practiced. I felt that I couldn't keep on going without the piano.
Son didn't give up on learning the piano even in very trying circumstances. He believed that if he remained hopeful, he could find a path forward.
This music should be so enjoyable. Yes, so the right way that you want to play, that you want to enjoy. I want to enjoy, yeah.
That's the message Dang Tai Son has for the children of Fukushima as they continue to deal with the knock-on effects of the disaster. It's November 2012. Son arrives in Japan for a concert and takes time out to visit Fukushima. He goes to see the disaster-hit areas.
I'm still looking for to see something, and I'm sure still some damage cannot fix right away. So to see the update of the third-day image.
His destination is the city of Soma on Tohoku's Pacific coast. According to the city authorities, nearly 500 people died and more than 2,000 buildings were destroyed when a huge tsunami struck in March 2011. Many of the disaster survivors still live in temporary accommodation.
It's empty. There's nothing here at all.
It's so empty. I just wonder the people who lived here before once have a life, normal life, and just only in one moment everything is changed.
Sometimes it's tough to face the ongoing difficulties. They need to try and find the light at the end of the tunnel.
It's a long term. It's long term.
Son visited Fukushima once before, 27 years ago. He has vivid memories of Fukushima City Concert Hall, as that is where he made his first ever recording in Japan. He's welcomed by Jun Takahara, the concert hall director.
We have a photo of you.
Hachijuroko. Wow. Totally different.
Son first visited Japan in 1981. Since then, he's visited Japan not only to play concerts and make recordings, but also to teach at universities and instruct young pianists at music festivals and other events.
Japan opened the door for me so that I can move to Japan and then have a teaching position here. So since the 30 years I performed in Japan, it's already like my one of my closest nation.
This is the main hall where Son made his recording. At the time, its acoustic properties were considered among the best of any venue in Japan. The hall's sweeping design is modelled after a church, with porcelain tiles on the walls and floors of solid cherry tree timber. The acoustics produce a rich, warm sound.
Yeah, it's the same piano. Yongju Hachi. So yeah, it's about more than 30 years.
Son remembers well the very piano used to make his recording. Since the disaster, Son has been extremely concerned about the extensive damage in Fukushima. People in Fukushima had their lives turned upside down in an instant and are still facing the reality of living as evacuees. As a child, Son also experienced the difficult life of an evacuee. In 1965, when Son was 7, his country of Vietnam was ravaged by war. Son lived in Hanoi, which was bombed by the US Air Force.
How they live in Vietnam, people make a lot of risk, generally speaking, because always the wartime, when the life and death is so near, and they never care about that. Even me, when I was little, when they are fighting on the air, the aircraft, instead of staying in the underground to avoid. And we come with the children in the village, we come out and we want to look, and bravo!
Son learned the piano from his mother, who became one of Vietnam's leading pianists. At the time, he had just entered the Hanoi Conservatory of Music, a state-run institution. To escape from the air raids, Son and his mother evacuated, together with other conservatory students, to a rural village 70 kilometres away. They took their instruments with them and continued to practice in a corner of the village. Every time they heard the sound of approaching warplanes, they had to flee to a bomb shelter. children also had to help collect the bamboo leaves used for fuel. Despite the harsh lifestyle he endured during his childhood, Son never lost his affection for the piano. Eventually, Son returned to Hanoi. There, his talent was recognized and he won a place at the Moscow State Conservatory. At the age of 22, he leapt to worldwide prominence after winning the International Frédéric Chopin piano competition. His triumph came just 5 years after the end of the Vietnam War.
Because I think my childhood is quite different with my colleague, my generation. So in my own experience also, there's some period I had to stop playing. Really, music is another type of the food. And if I don't play for a few days, I feel that I need some meal. I need something. Let the music be part of your life, and it will save our life. I think in the life there's so many mysteries, there's many miracles. How the people, when they believe something, and they have a power amazingly, and can realize something like a miracle.
Having experienced the horror of war as a child, Son is particularly concerned about how local children have been affected by the 2011 disaster. He heard that some of the evacuee children are attending the piano school in Fukushima City and goes along to see how they're doing.
Pleasure to visit you.
Before the disaster, the school provided lessons in 8 locations around Fukushima. However, since all 8 locations were within 30 kilometres of the damaged nuclear power plant, instructors and students alike were forced to evacuate to various other towns. 6 months later, the school started up again in Fukushima City.
One of my students called on the telephone and said that despite his efforts, there was nothing he could do. When he said he felt his life is over, it really inspired me to realize I needed to do something. At the time, I didn't have a concrete plan, but I told him to wait because I would try to do something.
Now, about 100 of the school's 750 former students have come back to study in Fukushima City.
Subarashi.
One of the students is Kaito Hosoda. Before the disaster, he lived in the city of Minami-Soma, but now he lives in Fukushima City together with his mother.
Big hand, huh? So now it's how... which year you are? How old you are?
I'm 11 years old and in the 5th grade.
How you started to learn piano?
I saw my older brother and sister both playing the piano, and I thought they were really great, so I decided to start too.
Kaito's elder sister Momoka is in the 3rd year at junior high school. She lives apart from her brother, and the only time they can see each other is 3 times a month at their piano lesson. Momoka also evacuated to Fukushima City immediately after the disaster, but she moved back to Minami-Soma with her father so that she could continue to play in her junior high school brass band.
Since the disaster, I'm even more keen to be involved with music, and I do my best every day.
Many of the students evacuated from their hometowns and are living in rented apartments or other accommodation. They keep on practicing, even as everything around them has changed.
So right now you have piano at home?
We have an electric piano.
Not disturb your family or neighbor?
Now I practice with my headphones on.
After the disaster being with the children, I can see that those who have restarted lessons really want to play the piano. In many cases, it's because they want to relieve stress or because they want to use the piano to get across how they feel. That's what is often the case. Saiko Seo is a second-year junior high school student who evacuated from Minami Soma. The disaster struck just before she graduated from elementary school, and now she attends a junior high school in Fukushima City. Her mother Mikiko is also attending her lesson.
And the exactly the moment on the March 11, where you were at that time, at the moment where you in the school or you at home or where the earthquake and tsunami happened?
I was at school. I was at home. The earthquake struck just as the kids were practicing for their elementary school graduation ceremony.
For the 2 months following the earthquake, mother and daughter lived communally together with other evacuees in gymnasiums, hostels, and other evacuation centres. During that time, Saiko hardly had any opportunity to play the piano.
During the first month we spent living as evacuees in the gymnasium, the hardest thing was the way my daughter cried at night, saying she would never get to play the piano again. Because we were living always together with so many other people, we could not make much noise or fuss, but it was hard to see her crying quietly as she went to bed. I found it really hard back then. I had been playing piano every day, but suddenly I couldn't play anymore, and I always used to feel restless at the time I usually practiced. I felt that I couldn't keep on going without the piano.
During his childhood, Son also endured an enforced break from practice, in his case, due to the outbreak of war. But even during such testing times, he maintained his passion for music.
This trip bring me back to my childhood. We have a few kids and we would love to practice, but not enough piano. So we have to share piano with many other kids. So I could have only, when I was 7 years, only Nijupung, 20 minutes per day. But I love to practice more than 20. So that's why we have to create a kind of paper keyboard and just imagine that play after 20 minutes on real piano, then only imagine that we play on some piano like that. So be careful, yeah? So be careful. Go here.
Having seen himself how much the children want to learn the piano, Son decides to take a group of children to the Fukushima City Concert Hall. He hopes they'll enjoy playing the piano on such a wonderful stage. He asked the venue director and got permission to hire out the hall. After the disaster, the children had to cancel one of their concerts, and Son wants to provide a replacement event. The first child to play is Yurika Kiyonobu, who is still in the final year of kindergarten. After the earthquake, she was always in tears, but with the encouragement of her teacher, she managed to keep on practicing the piano.
Good.
The next pianist is Kyosuke Takano, a first-year junior high school student who dreams of growing up to become a music teacher. In the audience are local piano lovers from Minami-Soma and Fukushima City. Momoko Hosoda, the third-year junior high school student living apart from her brother, also plays a piece. After graduating junior high, she hopes to specialise in music at a high school elsewhere in Japan. Her younger brother Kaito will only be able to practice together with her for a few more months.
Moto Shikari Yubisaki. Yes, yeah, got it. Yeah, and this one.
As he listens to the children play, Son begins to offer enthusiastic advice.
Hi. Okay, yeah. Now already really I see the different. Yeah, the about dynamic is different. Yeah, good. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hinako Kusano is also from Minami-Soma. She used to practice piano in a class together with her friends, but since the disaster, none of the others have returned. Now, she continues to practice alone.
What is mean vivas?
ビバースっていうのはもう一度どういう意味でしたでしょうか。
Lively.
This music should be so enjoyable. Yeah?
楽しい感じで。
Yeah. So you cannot play one if you are so serious. At least before that. Yes, so the right way that you want to play, that you want to enjoy. I want to enjoy, yeah. Smiling a little bit, yeah? はい、どうぞ。Smiling, smiling. One, two. Much better, you see? Already much better.
すごく良かったと思いますよ。
Yeah?
なので。
I want to enjoy that. And then the music sound different. Okay?
いいですか。
Promise.
約束してください。
Oh, good. Finally see smile.
ああ、よかった、笑ってくれて。
Saiko Seo was affected by the disaster just before graduating elementary school. She continues to practice hard every day to try to fulfill her dream of becoming a pianist. She's finally got used to living in her new home of Fukushima City.
Yeah. So here exactly you piano sensei already forte.
In order to support her daughter, Saiko's mother still has not returned to her home in Minami-Soma.
I enjoy play with you.
楽しかったです。
Meeting Dang Taison, I could see that music has a really important place in his life, and I think we all definitely feel the same way. Having experienced the disaster, I think we all now, all of us, we have the same desire to keep on practicing.
It's the day of Son's concert at the Sumida Triphony Hall in Sumida Ward, Tokyo. Momoko and Kaito, the young brother and sister from Fukushima, have come to hear him play. Son is playing one of Beethoven's concertos. Over 2 nights, he's going to play a total of 5 works. Son says the music of Beethoven encompasses joy, sadness, life and death, capturing all human emotions. Because of this, Beethoven's music can be a great source of support and encouragement, especially in times of difficulty. By playing Beethoven in his Japanese concert, Son hopes he can give just a little strength and a little encouragement to everyone who lived through the disaster.
The meeting with the children is very touching. But even for the children, the meaning of the music already have some very deep meaning for them. It's still many things still not fixed. It's still exists. Yeah, just the thing and just require the effort not only from Japanese people but really we have to stay together. Yeah, in save this world all together. It's like a Beethoven music, exactly. Come together.
Meeting the children of Fukushima has convinced Son once again that music has great power. The children too look to music to fulfill their hopes and dreams.
Yeah, also smiling. Yes, yeah. Movement, yes. Look like you. So now, good boy. Yes. Yeah. We enjoy. Yeah. But very clever boy. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. Good luck. Yeah. Next time he will higher than me.